Welcome, ladies and gents, my name is Curci, and I can't stop playing Battlefront. It's just so good. I'm sitting there, I'm trying to edit the review. The review is done. It's out now. I just can't stop playing the game. I sit down, I say to myself, okay, I should edit a video. I should probably do this and get it out before it becomes irrelevant. But I'm just like, okay, but Battlefront is right there. My original plan was I was going to do other games before I actually got to Battlefront. I was going to do Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and I was also going to do Tales of the Borderlands, but I had Battlefront, and I had the game in my hand, and I remember thinking to myself, like, I've been waiting 10 years for this. It's been 10 years. 2005 is the year that Battlefront 2 came out. I'm just like, I've been waiting for this for a long time. I deserve this. And I just never stopped playing the game. It's really good, though. I always have said before that this is the game that I feel Battlefront was always meant to be. It was always meant to be an online game. It was always meant to have, like, really epic, over-the-top battles. I remember before this game came out, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, well, it's probably not going to be as epic as I'm hoping it's going to be. It's going to be fully multiplayer. It's going to feel like Call of Duty or Battlefield just with a Star Wars skin. No, it actually feels like its own game. Walker Assault is my favorite game mode. That is the most chaotic, where you have little bits of everything that the game offers. You have vehicles, you have aircraft, you have walkers, you have heroes, you have regular infantry units. The objectives are very simplistic, where basically you're trying to get to the upload stations as a rebel, and you're trying to call in all these different Y-wings so you can do the most damage to the walkers, while the Imperials are trying to defend the walkers. But the moment you see you're out on the field, there's blaster fire all over the place, there's explosions, there's Luke and Darth Vader fighting each other, TIE fighters and X-Wings up in the air. I'm sitting there and I'm looking around and I'm like, this looks so cinematic. It looks like it's from the movies. I love this. I feel like Battlefront had expectations. Expectations were about here, and I was like, okay, I'm fully expecting this game to not be as good as I'm hoping it's going to be, but then the game said, nope, go up. That's where we're at. I remember playing the beta and saying to myself, there's a couple of things that this game could do better. Like for Walker Assault in particular, I feel like it's very unbalanced. The Imperials win pretty much 90% of the time, and the Rebels win almost never. But in the final product, they nerfed the Walkers, they added weak points to it. It's a lot easier to take them out. People now understand that you have to use the speeders and wrap them up with a tow cable, because there's a lot of times where you get to the last section with the Walker Assault, and you have one that's really weak and another one that has like most of its health. Well, then you have to say to yourself, we're going to try and focus all fire on the one that's weak. Hopefully we blow that up, while the air speeders are going to go for the other one and try to tow cable it. Hopefully we win. And a lot of times, that works. But the other thing was that I was really hoping that Battlefront didn't do what I feel like Rainbow Six Siege is going to do, where it basically takes one game mode, focuses an entire game around, almost like what Evolve did. Evolve took that game mode of Hunt and focused an entire game around it and just said, okay, well, there's other stuff that you could do, but really, you're buying the game for this one game mode. And I really didn't want that for Battlefront. I didn't want Battlefront to be this game that focused only on Walker Assault, because that strategy didn't work for Evolve. I can't imagine it's going to work for Rainbow Six Siege. That's not what Battlefront did. Battlefront has a bunch of other game modes, a bunch of different things that you could do. There's so much variety. It's forgivable, the fact that it doesn't have a campaign. And that was one of the things that I was actually really disappointed about. I brought it up in my review where I was like, yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer that the game doesn't have a story or a narrative or any sort of things like that. It does have certain missions that do have cinematics, but those aren't a story. Those aren't a narrative. Like, okay, yeah, it's giving your character a reason as to why he or she is there for this particular mission, but at the end of the day, it's not a story. It's not a narrative. There's nothing linking there. It's just, that's why you're there, that's why you're surviving. Even Battlefront 2 had a story. It followed the perspective of this squad of clone troopers that ended up becoming stormtroopers, and they were the 501st. That's Darth Vader's main force. That is the one that always follows him around, the one that takes all of his orders. They don't mention it in the films, but in a lot with the extended universe, and more so with the games, you'd see a lot about the 501st. Actually, now that I think about it, I would not be opposed to a 501st game. Hell, I would not be opposed to a 501st movie. I love the Star Wars universe so much because you could do stuff like that. You could just take a story and be like, we're gonna make an entire narrative surrounding that. I mean, yeah, it's a bummer that Battlefront didn't embrace that whole like narrative aspect of it, but there's so much content here, it's really good. I just can't stop playing this game. There's so many different game modes. There's Fighter Squadron. Fighter Squadron is basically a game mode where you spawn in a fighter and you're in like this big battle. Now these games in particular are very short, like they don't last very long. I highly doubt it if a game lasts longer than 10 minutes. And each round, like you play on each map twice, where you play on the side of the Imperials and you play on the side of the Rebels and then move forward from there. But each round is just about 5 minutes. But even in those modes where you're just in like this big huge battle where like the fighters are all over the place and you're trying to find players and you're trying to find, like, there are AI fighters, and then you can find a token that allows you to become the Millennium Falcon or become Boba Fett's ship Slave 1, and you can just start killing dudes that way. I made a beeline for that mode because it was one of the game modes I actually didn't expect Battlefront to have until it was like announced. But even still, it was like, I love this game. The controls are also super easy. Like, even piloting one of the ships is an easy thing to do. I always have struggled with air vehicles in the Battlefield games, and I always usually don't like to go for vehicles in Battlefield games, but in Battlefront, really super easy to control all the vehicles, not just the air vehicles, not just the A-Wing, the X-Wing, the TIE Interceptor, or the TIE Fighter. It's everything. It's to the AT-ST, to the speeder bikes. See, that's why I love playing Battlefront. Every time I play it, I create a new moment for myself, where I fire a rocket at Darth Vader and kill him that way. Or I'm in a TIE Fighter and I'm firing down at the enemy and I'm actually helping my buddy out who's pinned down by rebel forces. Or another time where I'm playing on Blast, which is Battlefront's like take on a team deathmatch, and there's a group of 4 guys. I just toss a grenade in there and kill all 4 of them. And then you have like really like funny moments too, where there was a time where I was playing with one of my friends and he's sitting there and he goes, "Dude, you owe me. I totally just saved your life." And I turn around to look at him and I get a sniper right in the head. And from his perspective, when I talked to him later, he goes, "Dude, your body just flipped. It was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen." We're just sitting there, we're laughing. It's just, I have so much fun with this game. It's insane. I actually was afraid that, okay, well, while I'm playing Battlefront, I'm gonna get burned out. I'm not gonna want to keep playing it. No, it's not the case. I don't know if it's because I'm such a huge Star Wars fan or if it's because I just love how well made Battlefront is. Or maybe it's a combination of the two, but I just can't stop playing Star Wars Battlefront. I talked about the controls a little bit with the vehicles, but how about we talk about the controls of the game itself? It's really super easy. It's pretty much your standard shooter, but you can play from either a first-person or a third-person perspective, and switching between the two is just an easy button prompt. But it's your basic shooter, where I also love how, yeah, you can die pretty quickly. Sometimes people can get a lucky shot. Sometimes they can get you from behind, but it doesn't feel so quick as like a Call of Duty quick death. Like, you feel like in Call of Duty, all you really gotta do is just do a and they're dead. But in something more like with Halo, where you actually gotta drill the guy and get his shields down before you can actually kill him, with Battlefront, you still have to put in a little bit of an effort to take a person down. Just because I'm shooting at you, it's not a quick little dead. It's just, I'm hitting you a couple of times. Maybe if I hit you in the head, I'll be able to take down your health a little bit faster. But at the end of the day, it's gonna take more than just a simple little burst to actually kill you. There are actual tokens out in the field. You can pick them up. You can throw down turrets, call it an orbital strike, use a rocket launcher. There are star cards that you can go ahead and purchase and then have them organized in different hands so that you can switch between the two as you play. So like, now I can throw a grenade, or now I have a jump pack so I can traverse the field a lot easier. And there's a special star card where it's like, okay, well, now all my shots have explosive shots. I have an ion shot, which has me do additional damage to vehicles. There is a personal shield that I can project so I can protect myself from incoming fire. There's so much depth to the actual game itself. It's not just one of those games that just, okay, here, you're a stormtrooper now, or here, you're a rebel soldier. No, there's so much more to it. There's traits that you can get. These are these little cards where the more you do better during like a certain lifespan. So like, if I'm sitting there and I like drum up a kill streak, I have this one card that's gonna add to my total, like, whatever stat that I happen to pick for this one card, and then you can upgrade that to a level 3 trait if I'm doing really well. But when I die, it resets back to 1 and I have to start all over again. But it's just, I can't get over the fact of how well made this game is. It's just so good. There are a lot of game modes in which are like kind of takes on things that we've experienced before. Like Cargo is basically capture the flag, Droid Run is basically domination, Blast is team deathmatch. But then you have other modes that are very unique to Battlefront itself, where we talked about Fighter Squadron, we talked about Walker Assault. There's heroes versus villains. On the villain side, you can play as, of course, Darth Vader, you can play as the Emperor, or you can play as Boba Fett. Whereas on the rebel side, you can play as Luke Skywalker, you can play as Leia, or you can play as Han Solo. And I'm sure with DLC, we're gonna get additional characters. Maybe we're gonna get a Chewbacca, or maybe we're even gonna get a Lando, or maybe we're even gonna get some of the other really notable characters that are in the Star Wars universe. Something that's not just with the original trilogy, maybe with something with these newer movies as well. Maybe I get to play as Kylo Ren, or maybe I get to play as the Chrome stormtrooper whose name I don't remember, being played by Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones. Maybe even something from the prequels, although probably not. I think that at this point, the new trilogy of Star Wars movies is going to try to distance itself from the prequels and just kind of pretend that they weren't a thing, which I don't honestly blame them. But going back to heroes versus villains, you basically have 6 players on each team. 3 of them are going to be heroes or villains, and the other 3 are going to be normal soldiers. And basically, the goal is to destroy and kill the enemy team's heroes or villains, and the first team to wipe out all all the heroes or villains will win the game. Then there's Hero Hunt, where one player is going to be playing as a hero, where you're either going to be playing as Darth Vader or the Emperor or Han Solo or Luke Skywalker or whatever, while all the other players are going to try to hunt down and kill that one player. Basically like a juggernaut, but it's so fun playing as Darth Vader, getting into like these really narrow hallways and then cutting dudes down. Which is the other thing too, is that I really like the map designs with this game. From something larger to Walker Assault, or even something a little bit smaller to what you would probably see in Blast, each map has like open areas and little choke points and narrow hallways to kind of exploit. And that was one of the things that I did with Hero Hunt, was that like I kind of lured people in when I played as a hero, when I played as either Darth Vader or the Emperor or Boba Fett. Like I tried to lure them into like a really closed off area, because when you're playing as a hero, you're out in the open and you could die pretty quickly. But if you're in like a very narrow area that is a little bit more congested, you have the upper hand, because you can kind of surprise people, just throw your lightsaber or force push somebody. It's a lot easier because then you can kind of control the situation a lot better. The only map I'm really not a huge fan of is the Endor Walker Assault map. I actually talked about this in the review, but the general idea of it is that there's one walker and the uplinks for the rebels are in really weird places, where some of them are in trees and it's just annoying. Like, yeah, I get it. There's no fighters, there's no air combat in the game, which means that it might make it a little bit more difficult to kind of take out the walker, but I've never once have seen the Imperials win on that map in that game mode. I remember thinking to myself like, that's a little bit disappointing, and you know, going forward, it's just like I kind of cringe when I get to that map and I'm playing on the side of the Imperials, because I'm like, I'm gonna lose this. But beyond the multiplayer, beyond those game modes, there is sort of like a single player aspect where I don't like to call it single player, even though you can play it by yourself. I kind of look at it as like, this is an additional multiplayer mode, because you can play with or against a friend, but you do have the option to play by yourself, and those are the missions or the battles and the survival modes. Survival is basically like a horde mode, where you get like 15 waves, you're thrown into a situation, you have to fight against increasingly more difficult waves of enemies. Sometimes you have to deal with an ATST, sometimes you have to claim a drop pod that comes in, sometimes you have to fight off TIE fighters if you're on the Sullust map. I've actually been playing survival a lot more than I thought I would, because I've been enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would be. There are different difficulties. If you want to challenge yourself, there's normal difficulty, there's hard, and then there's master, and you get an achievement if you get master. So I've been trying to go after that. On normal, these modes are kind of a little bit of a breeze. I've never actually failed a survival mission, although I have died before. But that's when I was playing on normal. On hard or on master is a different story, obviously. And then there's the battles mode, and I thought battles was going to be very different than what it actually was. I thought that was going to be the game in which had all the narrative. I was under the impression that it was going to pull from some of the big epic battles from the films, where it was going to show you the Battle of Hoth, or it was going to show you the Battle of Endor, and it was just going to have maybe some battles you didn't see, and it was going to be like kind of narrative driven, but kind of objective based. Like Battlefront 2 did this too, where basically it spawns you in and it said, okay, take this point. Then it unleashed a wave of enemies. You had to defend against them. Sometimes it said, all right, you have to take out those turrets so that the drop ship can come in, and that dropship had Luke Skywalker, now you can play as Luke Skywalker. Where it was just basically going to be like an objective thing, where it was like, okay, no, it's not a story or a campaign mode, but it's you playing a part in one of these big epic battles. That's not what it ended up being. What it ended up being was that like it picked a map, put you in control of a character, and said, okay, kill the enemies and pick up the tags that they drop. Basically, it's kill confirmed. Now you can choose to play this as one of the normal soldiers, or you can play it as a hero. There's different options that you can pick, and it's the same thing. You can choose difficulties. You can choose normal, hard, or master. Now for battles and missions, there are different challenges that you can complete. If you beat it within a certain amount of time, you'll get a star. If you beat it on a certain difficulty, you'll get a star. If you collect some of these different collectibles that are on each map, you can get a star. Then there's training mode, and training mode is very basic. You know, if you want to get a little bit of practice on how to pilot an X-Wing, or you want to get a little practice as to how to use an ATST, you can go ahead and do that. There's nothing really there. I didn't bring it up in the review because I didn't think it was worth bringing up, but I'll mention it here. It's just, okay, that's there. It's part of the mission section of Battlefront. It's really super simple. I beat it in like 30 minutes, all of them. But with Battlefront, I've been so immersed by it. I've been enjoying it so much. I just can't put it down. I can't stop playing the game. There's a reason why I named this video this. I think that's the big underlining thing, is that it's super addictive. And the reason why it's super addictive is because it's so well made. It's so fun. And there's so much nostalgia with it that it makes me as a Star Wars fan get really excited and really happy. I keep going back. I keep going after achievements. I keep trying to grind out levels. And I hate grinding out levels, but I'm doing it because I just love, it's an excuse for me to play Battlefront. Star Wars Battlefront is the first game that comes out under the banner of EA, and it is a promising start. I am super excited for the future of Star Wars games. I'm super excited for the new movie that's coming out. Everything Star Wars is awesome right now, and I 100% recommend Star Wars Battlefront to anyone. Just do yourself a favor. Go out, get yourself a copy of Star Wars Battlefront, play it, love it, come back, thank me, we're good to go. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.